Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and today we have a LEGO adventure in real life video. I just returned from the LEGO Awesome exhibition in Seattle, Washington, and there were, well, lots of awesome models to see. So let's dive in right now and take a look. So what exactly is the LEGO Awesome exhibition? Well, it's a show put on by a LEGO certified professional, aka someone who professionally builds large-scale LEGO models for a living. It's made by a group called Brickman, and it is the awesome interactive exhibition of LEGO models, now in Seattle. To quote their website, this exhibition takes visitors on a tour of some of the most awesome places and awesome vehicles made completely out of LEGO bricks, including a 24.5 foot tall NASA SLS rocket, an Orca Whale, and the first life-size LEGO Harley-Davidson ever made. So this I was pretty excited for because it just happened to coincide with my regular visit back home in Seattle, and thankfully if you go on their website to book tickets, they actually still have openings throughout the month of December as well as January, so it does seem to be going throughout this holiday season in the Seattle Center's Fisher Pavilion, which is actually a pretty big space. Tickets start at around $15 to $25, which I think is pretty fair given what you actually see at the exhibit itself. And it's also very centrally located in Seattle, right by the Space Needle, so you can probably get some other stuff done at the same time. Now what's really cool about this is that this is one of the few times that a LEGO certified professional actually starts to run a full-on exhibition. It's very rare that it coincides with at least an exhibit that is at my hometown, so I was extremely happy to actually be able to visit. And so without further ado, let's just jump right in and see everything that there is to see at the Brickman Awesome exhibition of LEGO. Alright, here we are. Let's go ahead and take a look inside. Alrighty, so here we are at the Awesome Exhibition interactive exhibit of LEGO models, which runs throughout the months of November, December, and apparently January as well. As mentioned, this is in Seattle, Washington, really the heart of Seattle, and as you go in, you're greeted with a ticket check-in booth alongside a little booklet showcasing a sneak peek at some of the models you're about to see, which is really cool. Now, of course, once you go in, the first few models will be greeting you. There's a massive sign of the Brickman LEGO Certified Professional Awesome Exhibition, and the first model we see here is the Awesome Truck. This is made specifically to advertise and showcase the exhibit itself, featuring the brick-built logo. The shaping of this truck really reminds me of the LEGO Miniland models, and there's a nice little pink teddy bear strapped to the front as well, which is a pretty nice touch. Moving inwards to the rest of the exhibition, we can see some stuff based on licensed properties like the TV from The Simpsons, fully scaled up, almost a life-size model, which is interesting to see because it's a very pink model. This is a brick-built violin, which honestly I think LEGO could probably produce as an official set or something like it. They recently did the guitar, and I feel like if that was successful, they could do more life-scale LEGO instruments like this, because this is a fantastically built piece, which absolutely looks like the real thing. So really interesting to see that, and then we can move on to the next model, the Monsters Inc. Scare Door, which is a great piece of artwork here. You can see it definitely does resemble the in-universe model very well. And then we have a bit of an underwater submarine model. These are of course all the slightly smaller models going into the exhibit first, but one thing I do like is the amount of detail used for the underwater stuff. You've got the Ninjago movie squid head used as an actual squid, and some of the newest LEGO City Underwater Expedition divers pieces like the glow-in-the-dark anglerfish. And then moving on, we have one of the last of the smaller scale models. This is Roswell, New Mexico, showing UFOs abducting some civilians and maybe some government cars interrogating the aliens. Makes good use of the aliens from the Alien Conquest theme back in 2011, as well as some Star Wars stuff as well. I do like the rock work used on the canyon there, and all in all, it's a pretty fun looking model. And moving onwards to our next table here, they have some giant scaled ants trying to eat a lollipop, which does look really fun, and then a massive LEGO model of a mosquito drinking some blood, which is very, very interesting to see. I really do like the amount of detail used on here, and it really does look pretty good. It's a good large-scale rendition of the creature, with the transparent clear wings being one of the standouts of the model. It just looks very realistic in general. And then we can move on to the larger models. You can see there is a duck right there for duck bricks, but we also have this large-scale LEGO Crocodile, as well as a ton of bricks for kids to actually put some models together. Yes, the duck was actually there, but when I got here, I did not actually build the duck. It was already there, so very nice to see some duck representation here. But there is my duck right here, mascot of the channel Duck Bricks, right next to this duck right here. But of course, the star of the show was the large crocodile. Moving onwards, we have a scaled up, simple 2x4 giant Lego brick. It's somewhat similar to some of the large scale brick models you can see at some of the Lego stores themselves, but it's actually even bigger. I really do like about this exhibit that they actually put the number of bricks, the weight, the build time, the size, pretty much all the details about the models themselves you can actually read on the fact sheet right here, which I think is one of the coolest parts because it really does feel like a museum or exhibition. Next up, we have a large-scale sign for the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada sign right here. It actually does fully light up, which is really interesting. I'm very curious to see how the wiring looks like underneath there because they've got the traditional Lego glass dome pieces with little lights in between, so I don't know how they've got that hooked up, but very nice. And then we have a very cute model of a platypus, as well as a different bunch of animals for the Australian wildlife. So we've got a koala here, as well as a very large Lego kangaroo. This is really fantastically built, very much looks like the large-scale models you see at Legoland, but coming back to the platypus, this is just a really cute build for me, and it kinda does look like the mascot of the channel, the duck right here, so that adds it some extra bonus points in my book. So just overall a very well-built model. Moving onwards, we have a majestic sculpture of an orca whale erupting from the ground. I really do like the way this looks. I think it probably could have been even better if they had some water splashes going out from the base, but it still does look really great. Just a really well-designed orca in general, and I'm always very impressed by Lego artists and mockers who are able to create stuff like this, which just looks really cool in general. And speaking of large-scale Lego animals, the next thing you'll see here is a massive spider. I'm very curious as to how they actually got the limbs to stay in place. They may be just glued because they are just mounted on these standard ball joints. There are of course strings hanging it up as well, so perhaps that could be it, but you can see this is specifically a redback spider here. It weighs 5 kilograms and uses over 2,000 bricks, which is very cool. And continuing along this trend, we have a life-size Lego eagle as well, or vulture. This is, again, a fantastically built animal. Really does look like something you'll see at Legoland, especially in their nature and wildlife sections of the park. They have these large brick-built animals. So this particularly is a peregrine falcon. So that is exactly what this is. 5,380 bricks, took 42 hours to build, which is just really cool to see in general, and it has an excellent amount of detail, particularly in the wings. Moving onwards, we have the Windsor Castle, which is actually a location that I have visited in person, so really cool to see that. I actually visited it the last time I went to Legoland Windsor and was just touring around the area. And you can see all sorts of different details scattered throughout this model, from minifigures and royal guards and even some British dogs and whatnot, all different stuff. And one thing I do like is that they've actually left part of it open. So you can see bits and pieces of the library, you've got the Lego Shakespeare minifigure, and all sorts of different details hidden inside the castle to really tell a story and tell the builder exactly what they're looking at here, featuring some very interesting printed tiles. One tile that keeps on cropping up is actually a pretty rare one. That was the Lego Mixels tile with the rainbow pattern there that only appeared in some of the last Lego Mixels sets, so that's just pretty cool to see in general. Just all sorts of fun and fantastic little details that bring this model to life and really make this feel like a real life thing. So that is very fun to see, little dioramas scattered throughout. And then we can now move on probably to the next model, which is a fantastically massive Lego Ferris wheel. This is probably one of the biggest Lego Ferris wheels I've seen, at least outside of Legoland, and it is jam-packed with all sorts of details. Each car features minifigures inside the cars, and this really does feel like something that you would see on, say, the show Lego Masters or something like that. Just a fantastically built model, and they actually stated in the design documents for the Ferris wheel that it wasn't hard to actually draft up the look and feel for it, but the hard part was actually getting the engineering to work to actually make sure the Ferris wheel would stay together and be able to be transported easily, because again, this is a show that goes around the country. Moving on, we have the massive Sydney Opera House. Now, Lego did do an official Sydney Opera House Lego set before, but nothing to this scale. And again, what's really cool is that on one side it does look fully complete. It looks like a full building with a lot of minifigures milling around on the outside. You can see some minifigures exercising, lifting weights and whatnot, which is pretty funny to see. Some people running away with hot dogs, all sorts of fun dioramas scattered around outside. But as we work our way through the side and to the back, the side of it is actually fully open up. So it's like you chop the Sydney Opera House in half, and you can see exactly what the interior looks like, from the bleachers to the observation post to the stadium. I just really like the construction of the glass windows here, just looks really good in general, and you can see all sorts of little mini details scattered throughout, including different sorts of bathrooms and theater areas, including for whatever reason a Wolverine minifigure, presumably because Hugh Jackman is Australian, as well as a band of LEGO performers with some excellent looking instruments as well. So this is a really fantastically detailed model, and the one thing I really like about this and many of the models in this exhibit is that a lot of them are not just static display models. They don't just look good from the outside, because when you look inside, you can see all sorts of different details and little dioramas and scenes happening inside the model itself. Pretty much every single available space in this model is taken up by minifigures just going about their lives and having some fun and interesting scenarios scattered throughout. So that's really cool, even a bit of a restaurant here as you can see, and so that's probably one of my favorite things about this model in particular. Even they have a little gift shop here with all sorts of different printed and stickered LEGO tiles, including some of the official LEGO set tiles, which is very interesting to see, that one Mixel's tile again, and just all sorts of fun prints scattered throughout. And now you can see the model in its entirety from the back side right here, moving all the way upwards to the front. It truly is a fantastic LEGO model. And with that, we can move on to the next build, and that is probably the centerpiece of this entire exhibit. We have the Seattle Space Needle here. This has got to be the largest LEGO Space Needle build I have seen in my life. There actually is a LEGO Space Needle build that you can see in the Space Needle itself, but I actually think that this kind of tops it in terms of scale. As you can see, zooming outwards, it is truly massive. It just absolutely dominates the entire display, and you can see just how it scales well next to all of the other people milling around it. It's just a fantastic model in general. Zooming in though towards the details here, you can see all sorts of minifigures going about their lives, going up to the entryway, which is something I certainly am very familiar with as a Seattle native. I gave a lot of tours to my friends of the Space Needle around this summer, so I am very familiar with this space, which is really cool to see it replicated so accurately in LEGO form. The Space Needle was originally built for the World's Fair years and years ago and has since remained an icon of the Seattle skyline. It's one of the most iconic things that you can see in Seattle, especially with these elevators with the glass doors. Everything is just replicated perfectly, and it's basically the Eiffel Tower for Seattle. So that's what it is. This is a truly magnificent LEGO model that is beyond anything I've ever seen for the Space Needle. But speaking of the Eiffel Tower, they've also got an Eiffel Tower here, although it is not nearly as large as the Space Needle. It still is one of the largest LEGO Eiffel Towers I've seen. Now, I actually have been several times to the Eiffel Tower, so this is actually a location that is pretty familiar to me as well, and I have to say it's replicated very well. Right down to the people selling little miniature Eiffel Towers near the front, tons of minifigures taking pictures, painting, some scenery and pond with some ducks in the pond as well, but of course the main focus is the Eiffel Tower itself, featuring some excellent architecture being made to actually bring this tower into reality in LEGO bricks. And one thing that's really cool is they actually have this massive printed backdrop behind it, which really showcases the model in all its glory. Moving onwards, we have a slightly smaller model for Godzilla, featuring the iconic monster built out of LEGO bricks. One detail I love are the flames kind of licking out from under his teeth. Just really shows the scale and power of this model, and while it may be a little bit less refined than some of the other models in the exhibit, it still is a fantastic build and something that you can immediately recognize as what it is. I also like the small bits of ruined scenery around him, just really adds to the overall scene of Godzilla destroying the city, presumably destroying Tokyo or whatnot, so just a fun model in general. And what's cool is that right next to it we have the Chinese theater, which maybe Godzilla the movie could have been playing at this theater, which features a great exterior with, again, packed full of minifigures, just all sorts of different figures, a whole red carpet lined up for stars, including the stars of the LEGO movies, from the Ninjago movie to the LEGO movie 1 and 2. You can spot some cameo appearances of Wild Style and the Where Are My Pants guy. I do like the movie sign, which is brick built, which does come together very well. Some bits and pieces of detailing, including the scorpions alongside the back, and even the Ninjago ninja swords at the tips of the theater here. So overall, just a very detailed model. As you probably are noticing a trend, all these models are very detailed. An extra touch here though is, again, a lot of the members of the audience and the stars are made up of the iconic characters from the LEGO movies, which definitely does make this fit within the LEGO world very well and still have a definite unique flair to it that is replicating a real world LEGO building. And with that, we can move on to the next model on display because there's still a ton more. This is the Shinkansen Series 0 bullet train for the Tokyo types of bullet trains that go around Japan. It's a fantastic build. And you can really see that this actually is mini-land scale. So they are actually using the brick-built mini-land figures, which is very interesting to see. I probably saw something like this at Legoland Japan in their mini-land. So you can see zooming in, there's all sorts of different figures, including a minifigure just used as a child figure, I guess. But I really do like the amount of detail that's put into here at a completely different scale than most of the models. Whereas most of the other models' interiors focused on minifigures, this one actually focuses on mini-land figures. And I love that chef right there, just a really fun character, and this is just a really long Lego model, just absolutely fantastic to see something this big at mini-land scale. And speaking of another very large-scale LEGO vehicle, this is another LEGO plane. This is the Antonov 225 Aeroplane. I'm not too familiar with this particular model itself, but it actually does look like it has trains being loaded in. The front of the plane does fully open up, and this is actually only half a plane, because like many of their other models, as we move around to the side here, you'll notice that it's just basically chopped in half. And a lot of these models are essentially just cross-sections of other models, so this allows trains to actually be driven into the plane, which is a really cool detail. And then of course you have a ton of extra detailing up at the top as well, so just a really space-efficient place, and really just makes you imagine what sorts of scenarios could be happening in this particular transport. So you've got the pilot's cabin, some spaces for passengers, some minifigures having presumably business meetings, a chef chasing down a chicken, which is one of my favorite parts of the build. Bit of an empty space here in the middle, but there's even someone doing their laundry on the plane, engine room, storage room, all sorts of different things. So all in all, just a fantastic diorama that doubles as both a diorama and an actual model plane as well. So again, moving around the front here, you can just see the front of the plane. One other fantastic thing they did was replicate many famous movie posters, particularly sci-fi movie posters, in brick-built mosaic form, which are very large pieces. I honestly am really inspired and kind of want to build some of these for my own collection at home because they came out really, really well. You can see just the amount of detail that goes into these, and these were all just thought up of based on the original posters. So just very impressive works of art in general, and of course you can really immediately see what these posters are supposed to be just by looking at them. Moving onwards, speaking of LEGO space and sci-fi stuff, we actually have a realistic LEGO satellite hanging from the ceiling. Yes, this is made of LEGO, even if it's not immediately apparent just by looking at it first. It is fully made of LEGO, really impressed by the curvature of the dish, how long this piece extends outwards, and how that actually is all able to stay together, which is really, really cool, just a feat of engineering. Of course, as you go closer, it becomes more and more apparent that this is an official LEGO build, using just traditional LEGO pieces, but this is the Voyager 1 space probe that's over 3,000 millimeters long, which is insane. Moving onwards, we have a large-scale dump truck branded by Caterpillar, which is really cool, seems to be some sort of a cross-promotion here. It obviously is a very excellently detailed large-scale build, but to be honest, what interested me the most was the build area down here, which features some of the rarest LEGO tires. Moving onwards, we have another model suspended from the ceiling, a United Nations helicopter parachuting down supplies and whatnot, which is really cool looking. I love the way the parachutes are made, it looks very realistic, and just a fantastic display piece overall. It's really fun to go around this exhibit and look up at the ceiling and see fantastic models like these dangling from the ceiling itself, because you can very easily miss this, so it really requires you to look around in all directions to fully absorb this LEGO experience. And then moving onwards, we have a little bit of an interactive piece here, help build the longest LEGO snake, so people are encouraged to build from their own tiles and actually create this very long trail of different LEGO pieces which represent themselves or their traditions or families. Moving on, there is a large-scale LEGO Back to the Future DeLorean, which is probably the biggest LEGO model of the DeLorean I've ever seen, replicated in fantastic detail. This is also one of the most accurate ones, especially because LEGO has made the DeLorean before as an official LEGO set, but this is obviously nowhere near the scale of what LEGO could do as a LEGO set. One thing that I really do enjoy about this is that, one, it's on a turntable, so you can really appreciate the entire model, but as you zoom into the back, you can really see all sorts of details from the license plate to the text, all being fully brick built, and of course all of the machinery up at the back of the car as well is fully detailed. So really, really interesting to see the entire model like this. I love the way the wires cascade around it, much like they do on the actual movie prop, and overall this is just a very fully detailed LEGO model in general. And here's a close-up look at some of the fantastic building techniques being used to replicate the machinery, just some different parts usages and unique things, probably using flex hoses and all sorts of different LEGO elements, truly pushing the system to its limits. And that's what's really amazing about this centerpiece model. Moving onwards, we have still more models to cover. This is an amazing diorama of a LEGO boat kind of surging above the waves. This is particularly the Icebreaker Rsv Ship, a very fantastically built model. I really love the way the waves work. And again, as you can see, it's another cross-section model, so it splits right in half, and you can see the immense amount of detail packed within the model. So you've got all sorts of pirates and sailors and whatnot, a set of washing machines, which does actually kind of make sense, some cargo containers, and all sorts of different details packaged in this one massive LEGO ship. This is probably one of the most detailed ships I've seen. Funniest scenes include the robotic penguins from DC chasing after the people. There's someone being elevated by a robotic crane hanging above the water in fright. So all just sorts of fun dioramas, including some stuff like an alien being thawed out of the ice in the science lab here, which is one of my favorite details. You've got a mad scientist slowly drilling the alien out of the ice. Moving onwards, we have a lot of sleeping quarters and bedding areas, a kitchen, just everything that you can think of that could fit on a ship like this has been replicated fully. So that's really, really cool. Fully detailed engine room as well, and that of course is just the interior of this model, which again is the reason why I love this exhibition so much. It's because there's just so many unique things going on with it. It's not just good looking models on the exterior, but actually fully integrated detailed models that tell a story on the inside as well. So that is what's really cool about this ship in general, and you can see one last look at the entire vessel right here as we go all the way around and circle back to the exterior of the model here, which showcases that fantastically built LEGO wave as well. And finally, to wrap up the builds in this video, we have the aforementioned life-size LEGO Harley-Davidson motorbike looking fantastic with full light integration, as well as a building area for kids to build as well. And that was the final model in this entire exhibit. So that was the awesome exhibition for LEGO here in Seattle. Really would recommend checking it out if you're in the Seattle area. Some fantastic builds, truly amazing models, and that was a great time. Alright, so we have just taken a look at the Rickman Awesome exhibition. Would definitely recommend if you're in the Seattle area, do go check it out. Lots of fantastic builds on display. And with that, we have summed up this special LEGO exhibition video. Thank you so much for tuning into Duckbrick. Stay tuned for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon, and bye-bye for now.